Hello there! Welcome to the second episode of Secrets in Sparking Zero. The lock-on mechanic has been a core feature of the Tenkaichi game since the series' debut back in 2005. It was one of the many features they implemented to make the gameplay feel more like the anime. Fast forward to Tenkaichi 2 and we got some new additions and reworks to the radar/lock-on system. You can now use combos to literally knock the focus out of your opponent and force them out of the lock-on state. Oh, and a few characters also gain Blast 1 abilities designed to conceal their energy and break the opponent's lock-on. Even though the devs were really big on experimenting with these lock-on mechanics, they kinda threw a lot of them out the window with the release of Tenkaichi 3. Both players begin the battle locked on right from the start, which is a stark contrast compared to the previous two games. Combos no longer break the lock-on state, and there are no Blast 1 abilities that allow you to hide your energy. However, I wouldn't necessarily view the removal of these features as a bad thing. While the Blast 1 abilities that allowed you to break an opponent's lock-on were pretty cool, the other two were objectively unnecessary and tended to disrupt the game's flow. And it seems the devs felt the same way, as none of those features from Tenkaichi 1 and 2 made a comeback in Sparking Zero. Instead, we got something new. Goku is positioned underwater, while Videl is roughly 200 meters away, hiding behind a rock. After about 10 seconds, Videl loses focus, but Goku doesn't. Strange. I then swapped Videl for Krillin, and Krillin still has focus.
Crap, where are you?
Or not.
Found ya!
Oh, never mind. Immediately afterward, Goku briefly loses focus but regains it within a second. It seems like power sensing is still a core mechanic, even after nearly 20 years. But not just that. It appears that they've greatly expanded on it. You see, there's a good reason why Videl lost focus on Goku and wasn't able to regain it back. It's because Videl, unlike many of the other characters in the game, isn't able to sense energy. On the other hand, Krillin and Goku, even if they lose focus for a split second, they can immediately regain it because they're able to sense each other's energy. Moving on to Scouter characters. Similar to Krillin, Vegeta can also regain focus on Goku as soon as he activates his Scouter. But get this, if we select one of the members of the Frieza Force, for example, Birder, Goku will occasionally lose focus since he's underwater and the opponent is hiding behind a big rock. But Birder, on the other hand, remains unfazed. That's weird. He isn't losing any focus. But I just did the same test with Vegeta and he was losing focus. What gives?
Where are you?
It's the Scouters. The game specifically highlights that the Saiyans are using old model Frieza Force Scouters, which have a limited range compared to the new model Scouters currently used by Frieza's army. Alright, let's see how much range these new models have. Here's the max range old Scouters can cover before losing focus. And here are the new ones. It's actually a pretty noticeable difference, but it's essentially a trade-off. If those Scouters get destroyed during battle, they essentially become blind as bats, at least when it comes to locating someone.
Hiding like a bug.
In the previous games, androids were notoriously immune to energy sensing because, well, they don't use energy like regular fighters. So how did Sparking Zero handle them? Honestly, they went pretty insane with the accuracy to lore. Since androids 17 and 18 are human-based androids, they lack built-in energy sensors that would enable them to detect people's energy. And Sparking Zero very much reflects that, with 17 losing focus on Goku as soon as he gets out of his line of sight. He's essentially as blind as any other character who can sense ki. But don't worry too much. Once 17 moves out of sight, the opponent will also lose their lock-on. Because, as we mentioned earlier, androids use an artificial energy source that's undetectable to those who can sense ki. I suppose 17 and 18 could theoretically learn to sense ki. In fact, 18 actually demonstrated the ability to sense ki during the Buu saga. But to be fair, that was only an anime-only filler scene. It never appeared in the manga. So, yeah. Depending on what you consider canon, she either can or cannot sense ki. One thing that's not up for speculation is the fact that 17 and 18 are able to get stronger by training. Therefore, it's not unreasonable to assume they could also be taught to sense ki. 16, 19, and 20, unlike 17 and 18, those three are entirely robotic. And one of the perks of being a fully robotic android is having built-in energy sensors. With the help of these sensors, 16, 19, and 20 can maintain a constant lock-on onto their opponent without any interruptions. Their range is similar to that of the advanced scouters used by the Frieza Force. I honestly really like how they handle the lock-on mechanics in SZ. They're pretty faithful to how they functioned in the previous games, and they even took it a step further with their accuracy to the lore. Now, there's also one more neat detail about this whole energy sensing system, but considering how long this section has already dragged on, let's just save it for the next one. Now, we've already gone over the differences between fully robotic androids and human-based androids. But there's one more thing that sets these two groups of androids apart. And no, I'm not referring to the fact that one group sucks your energy while the other doesn't. Energy drain model androids are equipped with built-in anti-gravity devices that allow them to fly, while 17 and 18 rely on a non-key-based source of energy that's powered by their infinite energy reactors. I want you to keep these differences in mind, because now, if we go into Sparking 0 and select 19 for example, he wastes energy on short dashes, just like everyone else, right? But now, once we actually start flying, he's not losing any energy. And if you try the same thing with a human-based android, guess what? They start losing energy. See where I'm getting at? It's almost as if they took into account those anti-gravity devices when designing 16, 19, and 20. This is actually a pretty insane detail, because not a single game prior has incorporated those anti-gravity devices. But unfortunately, this insane accuracy to the source material would prove to be a detriment. A week or so ago, Bandai hosted qualifiers for an official Sparking Zero tournament called the Dramatic Showdown. They're hosting tournaments in each of the 9 selected countries, with the winner from each country earning the privilege to compete in the Grand Finals. A total of 16 slots are available to compete in the Grand Finals. 9 of those will be filled by the winners from each of the 9 eligible countries, while the remaining 7 will qualify through 7 qualifier tournaments set to take place at Battler Hour on January 18th. With the announcement of the Dramatic Showdown tournament, the developers also revealed a patch that will, and I quote, adjust some battle mechanics in December 2024 after the online qualifiers. The tournament was a great idea, but not for Sparking Zero in its current state. They should have released that patch before the qualifiers, because once the France qualifiers kicked off, this happened.
DLC, and who knows what they've got planned for the future as well. So let's see. But starting out here, we're flying around for a bit.
Oh my god. Shiryu versus Hilister at the Grand Finals?
Right here, neither player wanting to even attempt to approach.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. What's the... Oh yeah, we're swapping out. More sick... What? We're doing it again.
Yeah, peak gameplay, I know. The players took advantage of 19 and 20's anti-gravity gimmick, which lets them dash without losing any energy because, well, they have no energy to lose. The reason they specifically abuse the ascend and descend dash is because it makes it really hard for the opponent to reach you. It's a well-known stall tactic in the DP meta. The ascend and descend dashes were balanced around the fact that they consume ki, preventing them from being spammed endlessly. However, as we now know, 19 and 20 don't abide by those rules. As cool as this lore-accurate detail was, I don't think it's gonna last much longer after the qualifiers. On a lighter note, let's talk about the evil wizard Babidi. I've been experimenting with him in DP battles, as he's incredibly cost-effective at just 2 destruction points. Plus, he has a unique key-based playstyle that makes him really interesting to use. In one of my battles with Babidi, I went for a grab, but unfortunately, I got countered. However, I did manage to pick up on something interesting. I'm gonna play the clip again in slow motion. Let's see if you can spot it. Yeah, notice how Rikum literally slapped Babidi's little energy drain lamp thingy out of his hands? My favorite part about this is how Babidi starts to panic and frantically search for it. Although, I'm not sure why he's making such a fuss. He literally has an infinite reserve of those lamp thingies. I always appreciate when Dragon Ball games incorporate a touch of realism. One of my favorite things to do in Kakarot was dashing over a body of water and watching how the water reacted. Now, Sparking Zero not only includes all these nice details, but does them exceptionally well. On top of that, it takes things even further with a unique environmental interaction. Let's take a trip to Namek. Planet Namek is the most unique stage in this game, thanks to having its own destroyed variant. And on that destroyed version, you can see lava flowing all throughout the map.
Damn.
The lava won't actually burn you, but it's not just for cosmetic purposes either. Believe it or not, you can actually interact with it. How, you may ask? Well,
Get ready to see my real strength.
the lava actively interacts with your energy, even blending with your aura to create some stunning visuals. It also considers your current ki level, as crossing the first 5 ki bar threshold causes both your aura and lava to intensify accordingly. It's just a simple yet effective detail. You can experiment with different characters and observe how their unique auras interact with the lava.
All right. Shall I get serious?
Lightning attacks are nothing new to the Tenkaichi series. However, the way they've handled them in Sparking Zero is quite unique. Unlike the previous games, lightning attacks can now be used to finish off virtually any combo. You can chain them after a throw, and hell, even after a super. You are able to vanish lightning attacks, but the timing window is extremely tight. Because of this, players often use them to secure some safe extra damage instead of opting for vanishing attacks, which come with a higher risk due to their much larger timing window, often leading to vanish wars. Now, because they are used so often, I was able to notice a distinct pattern. When I say lightning attack, I'm pretty sure that this is the first image that pops to mind. And there's a good reason for that. I did a math, and it turns out that 82% of characters use this variant of the lightning attack as their default. How did I get these numbers? Well, I tested it all with 182 characters. Yep, what prompted me to run these tests were the 2 Brolys. Since I was heavily focused on DP battles, I ended up facing plenty of Broly players, whether it was Z or Super. And one thing I noticed is that each Broly has 2 distinct lightning attacks. Z Broly goes for the classic lightning drop, while Super Broly grabs you by the face and slams you head first into the ground. This got me wondering, was there a specific reason why Z Broly had the regular lightning attack while Super Broly used the face slam instead? And that's when the tests began. As I mentioned earlier, 82% of characters use the standard lightning attack. Here's a little chart I put together to give you a clearer view. So what about the remaining 18%? Let's first cross off Videl and Mr. Satan, as neither of them can use lightning attacks. I suppose this choice was made for the sake of lore accuracy, and fair enough. Next, let's exclude all the giants since they can't use lightning attacks either. This isn't related to the lore, it's probably because the developers felt that lightning attacks would look ridiculous when performed by giants. And now we're left with only 23 characters. The remaining 23 characters will now be split into 4 groups based on their body types: the steroid users, regular fighters, small fighters, and Boo. Boo has a very specific build and doesn't really fit into any of the other categories, so yeah, he gets his own tier. All of the smaller characters, along with Boo, use a headbutt as their version of the lightning attack. It makes sense though, since most headbutts in the series were indeed performed by smaller characters. Fat Boo is an odd exception. I'm not exactly sure why he has access to a move that's reserved for smaller fighters, but he just does. And now for the rarest lightning attack variation in the game: the face plant. This one was particularly interesting because at first glance, I assumed it was exclusive to big and bulky fighters. You got Super Broly, Grade 3 Trunks, and Full Power Bojack. However, if sheer size and bulk were the only requirements, then fighters like Z Broly, Toppo, Jiren, Recoome, and similar others would also qualify. But they don't. There are also these guys who don't quite fit the criteria but can still pull it off. Which begs the question, what what's the actual factor that determines whether you can do it or not? These three are fairly easy to explain, and honestly, I think this variant of the lightning attack was created specifically because of them. All three of them have a notable use of this move in the show. Blue Vegeta versus Black, Vegito versus Merged Zamasu, and Broly versus Goku. I really appreciate that they created this variant of the lightning attack, especially since they could have just given them the standard version and called it a day. As for Bojack and Turles, I believe they slapped it onto them for the sake of variety, likely feeling it would be a waste to create it for just 3 characters. And to be fair, the move does fit their fighting style. Both of them were ruthless, disrespectful fighters. In other words, the perfect candidates for a move that involves grabbing an opponent by the face and slamming them into the ground. As for Trunks, no clue. He's neither ruthless nor disrespectful. In fact, he was the one who got disrespected while in that form. One of the standout features heavily promoted in Sparking Zero was the stage destruction. Virtually everything on the map can be destroyed. The best part about it is that your attacks leave a lasting trail of destruction, a feature fans have been requesting ever since the days of Xenoverse. On top of that, there are quite a few subtle details that do a good job of selling the whole Dragon Ball experience. For example, this one is so basic, but I really like it. If your character's intro animation involves an explosive power up, the surface beneath their feet will show cracks and damage. And once the actual battle begins, those cracks will still be there. Or how about when you go max power? That burst of energy actually impacts the surroundings. And here's the best little detail by far, one that I doubt many of you noticed. Remember that scene from the Budokai 3 opening where Goku blocks Frieza's elbow strike, creating a massive shockwave that destroys the area around them? That scene always kind of stuck with me. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe because I thought it looked badass or something. Anyway, the idea of a shockwave forming upon impact was such a cool concept to implement in a game, and I'm not sure why they didn't do it sooner. So, in Sparking Zero, if you charge your heavy smash to the max and your opponent blocks, nothing happens, right? But if you charge your dash smash and the opponent blocks, yep, the shockwave that forms upon impact actually destroys rock formations and other debris around you. I'm not entirely sure why it only works with charged dash attacks, but I won't dwell on it too much. I'm just glad it exists. I don't know, it's such a small detail, but it just helps sell that DBZ feeling along with all these other little details. Someone left quite an interesting comment under my previous episode of Secrets in Sparking Zero, and frankly, it sounded too good to be true. For a good while, I didn't give it much thought, but while testing something entirely unrelated, I found myself facing Scouter Vegeta, who, as the name suggests, uses a scouter. I thought, what the hell, let's give it a try.
Let's go!
The scouter broke. I mean, the detail is so simple and clever, yet surprisingly, no game had done it before, which is why I was initially skeptical about the comment. But wait, it gets even better. So we've seen that the scouters break whenever a strong character goes into sparking, but what would happen if a low-level character attempted the same thing?
That's it! Time to get serious!
Yep, there's some depth to this mechanic. Unfortunately, it's not so much based on the opponent's power level as it is on their DP cost. If it were based on power level, Kid Goku wouldn't be able to break it, but he does. Meanwhile, Goldo should be able to break it, but he doesn't. So yeah, it seems to only apply to characters with a DP cost that's 2 and below. In any case, I'm more than blown away that they even decided to include it. Hirudegarn is a giant. Obviously, because of that, he hardly gets any playtime from the player base, myself included. While giants do see use in ranked matches, particularly in DP battles, Hirudegarn is almost never played. This is likely due to his high DP cost and relatively low speed compared to other giants. However, I believe it's time we give him another chance, as Hirudegarn has something no other character in the game possesses: wings. So why am I highlighting the fact that he has wings? Why would wings even matter in a series where nearly everyone can fly? In most cases, wings don't matter. However, you might find yourself in a specific tournament where flying is prohibited unless you have wings or other appendages that enable flight. That's right, I'm talking about the Tournament of Power. Just like in the show, flying is prohibited in Sparking Zero, and anyone who tries to fly will gradually descend. Well, everyone except Hirudegarn, since he relies relies on his wings for flight rather than energy, Hirudegarn can freely hover and remain airborne indefinitely. So far, he's the only character that enjoys this luxury. If they ever add Nova Shenron, I wonder if he'll receive the same treatment. For the first time ever in a Tenkaichi game, Raging Blast included, the Candy Beam actually turns people into different kinds of candies. In all previous games, Candy Beams would transform opponents into a small gingerbread man. However, in Sparking Zero, the outcome varies depending on which form of Boo you choose. Super Boo still changes people into a cookie. But if we select Buhan,
It's snack time!
yep, a jawbreaker, just like he did in the show. And the last character with access to the Candy Beam is Maju. Just like in GT, he turns people into actual chocolate. I had a lot of fun making this one and have plenty of great material ready for the next episode. So yeah, you can expect the next episode much sooner. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.